Cloud Imperium Games just posted an $8.4 million loss for 2023. So what on earth is going on? No, this isn't clickbait. It's right here in black and white. A loss of £8,387,000, or about $10.8 million. And that's pretty awful by anyone's metric. It's definitely enough to get the Star Citizen is doomed crowd foaming at the mouth and predicting the heat death of the universe. But, and you've probably figured this out, it's not actually as catastrophic as it looks. This isn't me mainlining copium. I've quit the stuff, gone cold turkey in fact, at least for the duration of this video, and then I'm diving straight back in. The good news is I've got receipts, so maybe consider hitting subscribe for the actual pain I've inflicted on myself reading all this, so you don't have to. Because this is an eye-watering 50-page document. You'll find it linked below if you're feeling brave, but know that reading it is just about as enjoyable as slamming your fingers in a door. The report isn't the gamer-friendly version CIG usually puts out on its own website. That hasn't dropped yet. What we're looking at here is the official legal filing required in the UK, and the figures come straight from an independent auditor, so it's not just marketing guff and space magic from Chris and the team. So are people losing faith in the game and slamming their wallets shut? Are Chris and the directors huddled on their yachts, burning stacks of backer cash to stay warm? No, not even close. In fact, revenue was up in 2023. 47.9 million compared to 44.6 in 2022. And the operating income, the other operating income, was also up. £11.8 million compared with 6.9 million the year before. So why the loss? Primarily because costs exploded, up by a chonky £24.5 million. And there seem to be three main reasons for that. First, CIG bought the remaining 75% of Turbulent. That's a big move, and a pretty pricey one too at over £4.5 million. Second, they've been on something of a hiring spree, growing the team to keep both Squadron 42 and Star Citizen moving forward. More devs, more salaries, more coffee machines. Add 2 teaspoons of the highest inflation rate since 1991, and it's all starting to paint a picture. The third reason is peak accounting weirdness. CIG moved into their shiny new Manchester Goodyard studio back in 2022, which happened outside of the scope of this report. However, this is the first financial report where they're listing a £10 million liability tied to that studio. Why? Well, because when the lease ends, they're contractually required to return the studio in what they call Category A condition to the landlord. Think fresh carpets, nice lighting, and none of the geeky weirdness they've installed, like they were never there building spaceships and dreams. CIG has purposely overestimated that cost to avoid any nasty surprises down the road. Kind of like knowing you need to pay for a pet hair clean before you leave a rental property. You're not spending that money right now, but you'll end up in trouble if you pretend like that future cost doesn't exist. They haven't paid a penny of it yet, it's just sitting on the books. An accounting move, not a record of any money being paid. In other words, it's about being cautious, not cash strapped. So that big £10 million studio cost, it does show up right here, and it also explains why admin expenses suddenly ballooned like a starfarer hit by a torpedo. But here's the kicker. Take out that ultra-conservative estimate, money that hasn't actually gone anywhere yet, and that scary-looking £8.3 million loss well, it actually turns into more what it actually is, a £1.67 million profit. So, once again, you can safely ignore the frenzy screaming that seems to follow, well, literally anything CIG does. That said, there are a couple of spicy footnotes worth paying attention to. Remember that whole drama from the last report last year? The one where certain stockholders could potentially sell their shares back to CIG at a premium? Well, it looks like that clause has now been renegotiated. It's been kicked down the road by a year, although it does still have the clause that says they cannot force a sale that threatens the running of the company. And that means the earliest time anyone can start calling money out is after the 2025 financial report, so sometime in early 2027. Now, it's hard not to notice how nicely that timing lines up with the alleged release of Squadron 42 and all the juicy revenue CIG will be hoping that brings. Oh, and before I get the smart-ass comments, but it says right here the company's loss for the year was over £20 million, yeah, it does say that. But we backers tend to think of CIG as one company. In reality, it's a group of them, and those losses are offset by the profits of the other companies in the group. It's just singled out here because the UK-based part of those groups needs to be reported on so that CIG can receive those juicy video game tax breaks that are available here in the UK. So there. On that note, those tax breaks are set to come to an end in 2027, so we need to keep our fingers crossed that Squadron 42 sees widespread commercial success. So unless you're hoping to roast marshmallows over the ashes of Star Citizen, this report really isn't the doomsday prophecy that some folks will be hoping to make it into. Is everything sunshine and rainbows? No, not entirely. Big spending always brings big expectations, and as the dev team keep expanding, pressure's mounting to deliver the goods. There are storm clouds on the horizon that seem to rely quite a bit on Squadron 42 being a big hit with far-reaching appeal. But from where I'm standing, CIG looks more like a company gearing up for a major launch, and not one on the verge of collapse. You've been watching Drinkers with the Gaming Problems. Thank you very much for stopping by. I'll see you soon.